நீங்க 4 பிரதான வங்கிகளின் முக்கியமான பதவிகளை வகித்தவர் என்ற வகையில, இப்ப ஜனவரியில நேர்காணல் செய்தபோது நான் கேட்டிருந்தேன், "வங்கி கட்டமைப்பு உடைஞ்சிருமா? வங்கிகள் கொலாப்ஸ் ஆகுமான்னு கேட்டேன். நீங்க சொன்னீங்க, "இல்ல, இல்ல. இலங்கைக்கு அதுக்கான சரியான ஒரு கட்டமைப்பு இருக்குது. அது நல்ல ஒரு வலுவானது. அது நடக்காதுன்னு சொன்னீங்க. இவ்வளவு நாளும் 8 மாசமா அது தாக்கு பிடிச்சிட்டு, அது உங்களோட கூற்று உண்மை என்று எனக்கு தெரியுது. ஆனாலும், இப்ப கூட கதைக்கும் போது நாம் பெயர்கள குறிப்பிடையில, சில அரச வங்கிகள் இவற்றின் நிலை மிகவும் மோசமான கட்டத்துல இருக்கு அப்படி என்று சொல்றாங்க. அவங்க அது எந்த நேரமும் வீழ்ச்சி அடையலாம் அப்படி என்றெல்லாம் கூறப்படுது. இந்த மாதிரியான சந்தர்ப்பத்துல இலங்கையினுடைய ஒட்டுமொத்த வங்கி கட்டமைப்புகளின் நிலைய பற்றி உங்களுடைய பார்வை எப்படி இருக்கு?
Okay, Arun. I'm still confident that the banking system itself certainly the stress levels ஜனவரியிலிருந்து கூடியிருக்கின்றது. There is no question about it. And there are a few reasons. But ஜனவரியில் நான் உங்களோட கதை கேட்க the country still அந்த ஏப்ரல் 2019 இந்த பிரச்சனைக்கு பிறகு with also COVID வேறு சிறுபான்மை வியாபாரங்களுக்கும் with various companies there was relief given. அதாவது only interest and not to repay the capital அப்படி கொஞ்சம் ரிலீஃப் கொடுத்தவர்கள் மத்திய வங்கியின் தலையின் போது. All those relief schemes have come to an end by end of last year, right? And definitely overnight the economy is not going up because இப்ப எங்களுக்கு இருக்கிற நிலைமையில to expect the domestic economy to grow is foolish. And world over உலகம் முழுதும் mainly இப்படிப்பட்ட கஷ்டத்தின நாடுகள் இருக்க அந்த கஷ்டத்துக்கு வெளியான வரைக்கு the first sign is they go through not growth, they go through a period of contraction and then only on the control they go up. So it will be foolish to expect national growth, economic growth this year and next year. And that is why Vangigal also must be more responsible. And the central bank governor came on record recently and said, Sri Lankan Vyabaram, Sri Lankan businesses, please, if you are thinking of growing in the next year or two, whatever growth, do it with export-focused businesses. Allati dollar varakudiya services, so that our dependency more for foreign currencies will be managed. So as a result of that, wherever he said the local domestic businesses, the rupees order mattum management businesses, the story is not growth now. It is resource conservation, managing the resources and being. How can you pay interest at 25% and 30%, right? So one has to first. The reason for this interest rates is inflation is relevant. So we have to first do what is important first before we can do what we like to do. So the next 1 to 2 years, there is going to be a period of economic contraction. So even banks, we will have to see two things. The way they allocate their customer deposits and their capital, they have to look at it differently, point one. The second thing is, there is a challenge. Banks are mainly funded by public deposits in addition to their share capital. And most of that, there is a big challenge now, because when the bank interest rates were 10, 11% or 15%, the government was borrowing through the treasury bills at 20, 24, now 30%. Because they have to finance the economy. And other nadakeke, there has been a slow shift from bank deposits. Customers, have been removing deposits from banks and putting it into treasury bills. In interest rate கூடுது. So that has also been a challenge to the banks to manage their own economic activity and lending activity. So they are also slowing down. So the priority for the banks is to finance businesses which will survive in this problem and not to go and just finance any business. So that's one problem. The other challenge the banks are going to have is they have financed a reasonable amount on treasury bills to support the government activity. அது எந்த நாட்டிலையும் நடக்கிறது. Even India, a lot of the public sector banks have been doing that. எங்களோட NRI Indians காசு அனுப்ப a lot of the banks over years lending இருக்காமல் they have been funding government growth. That is not a problem. As long as அந்த காசு நாடு the government absorb பண்றது is put into productive essential projects and requirements and not wasteful expenditure. Aditya, there has to be good governance and a clear communication between the government to you and me. இப்படி அவங்க mobilize பண்ற காசு எங்கெங்க போகுது. And I think that is why the independence of the central bank is also important, because avangada role is to advise the government, the chief advisor to the government, not to play the role of a solution to the government. They are an advisor to the government. So, and their role, they are supervising the banks as well. And I think so far they have played their role as a supervisor of the banks fairly well. It is difficult times, it is tough times, but more and more, Nangalam, as long as we understand these economic vibrations and don't put in unnecessary pressure on banks and say, எனக்கு இந்த பிசினஸுக்கு காசு வேணும் நீ கொடுக்குற இல்லை. We have to understand what to ask, when to ask. That is also going to be a process of improving the வாடிக்கையாளர்'s understanding, and before they go and put pressure on banks. As long as that understanding is there, I still think that we are not going to see a collapse the way we think. Many people talk.